Today, I'll be sharing the 3 biggest withdrawal strategy mistakes that I've documented after analyzing over 100 different retirement income plans. Over my many years as a financial advisor, I've had the opportunity to identify patterns of mistakes that consistently emerge, costing retirees more than their savings. That's exactly why I'm making this video for you today, to help you avoid these surprisingly common withdrawal mistakes and to strengthen your retirement income plan. Let's get right into it. There's a massive problem that I see in the majority of retirement income plans in regards to the withdrawal rates that they're taking. Most retirees and even financial advisors miss these critical withdrawal strategy elements when they create a retirement income plan. One of the most significant patterns that I've discovered after analyzing over 100 different plans is what I call the withdrawal strategy blind spot. This is where retirees spend over 90% of their time planning on growing their assets, but a very little percentage of their time actually optimizing how they're going to take out those distributions from those assets in retirement time. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Retirement is about income, not about assets. This requires a big shift in your mindset. Going from earning a paycheck all of your working years and saving and investing to then taking money out from those savings and investments is really a mind trick. But when clients go through our Red Zone retirement income planning process that you can find in my book, The Red Zone Retirement Plan, they get peace of mind, knowing that they're still going to get a paycheck just like they did when they're working. Because through our retirement income planning process, we give them fixed income sources to cover their fixed expenses, like their food, shelter, and clothing. Think of those things. And then we have variable income sources covering your variable expenses, like leisure and travel, those type of things. If you want a free copy of the book, just drop me an email and I'd be happy to send one out to you. Retirees spend excessive time on growing their assets versus on optimizing their withdrawals and creating an income strategy. This is because the idea that Americans, us as Americans, think more is always better. If I can get more money here, more money there, I'm going to have a happier and more stress-free retirement. But that's not true. This idea that Americans have that they think they need to have this magic number, think 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, it creates a lot of stress and anxiety for people. But through our process, we help you with income over assets. This is key. But traditional financial education also creates this blind spot for people where you're focused on assets, not on income. Even educated investors make these mistakes that I'm going to teach you today because they're simply focused on the wrong things. There is a massive shift that you need to have going from thinking about savings to income and from savings for your retirement to spending for your retirement. And there is a big disconnect between what's mathematically optimal and what actually occurs in actual practice that I see as a CFP. That gap exists because there's theoretical advice and then there's practical implementation. But why? Well, because of a lot of things, because of human nature. How much risk are you comfortable with? What are the taxes that you're going to have to pay? How about lifestyle changes, legacy that you want to leave behind, health needs, kids, family? There's a variety of reasons between what's mathematically optimal and what actually happens. And I tell clients this: you are not a number, you're not a magic number, you're not a savings amount number or a math problem. You are unique. What your needs, wants, and wishes are unique, and your plan should be too. This planning imbalance isn't just a theoretical concern. It creates measurable financial losses that compound throughout your entire retirement. This mathematical significance of these withdrawal strategy mistakes could wreck your retirement, leaving you broke. But let me give you some more details here. The percentage of retirement income that is lost through these errors could be upwards of 10% or more due to unnecessary taxes, market risk, and lack of fixed income sources in retirement. This could leave you either broke in retirement, going back to work, or having you live a suboptimal retirement less than what you thought it would be. These mistakes not only cost you income, but they can also cost you time. So if I think about it from a time standpoint, that 10% or more could really be 3 years or more of lost income. Now, these mistakes, in addition to that, they compound over time. It may not be that big of an issue when you first get started in retirement, but over time, they can get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, you've worked very hard to save for your future retirement and sacrificed a lot. And I don't want to see all that money go to waste. We don't want to see money lost due to unnecessary taxes, expenses that you have to pay because planning wasn't done properly. In addition to that, if you're in the middle or upper class, this problem gets even larger. Why? Because larger sum of money create larger problems, more taxes, higher Medicare premiums, more Social Security tax. In addition to that, Social Security doesn't cover as much as your fixed income needs if you're a higher income person. What makes these withdrawal strategies errors particularly troubling is how they follow predictable patterns that I've seen repeated across hundreds of retirement plans. But before I get into the three big problems, let me explain why these errors happen over and over and over again. These mistakes emerge from conventional financial wisdom that is taught to you, and it's perpetrated through the media over and over again. It's just standard advice that's given. It's the way it's always been done. This can lead to some optimal retirement outcomes. Remember, you are unique. Your plan is unique. It should all be taken into account when you create a financial plan. The systematic reinforcement of these errors occurs in financial planning due to time constraints that CFPs have and a lot of people just wanting to hit the easy button. They exist because most people just go with what's easiest, not as what's best. They don't want to put the time into your plan. If you customize your retirement plan and you adjust it every year, you can have more optimal outcomes versus just hitting that easy button. These issues persist time over time again, despite their financial impact. Why? Again, because it's the status quo. This is the way it's always been done. It's easy, and a lot of people don't want to put in the work, like I said. If you don't have a plan that adjusts with your life and with market changes and with tax law chases, you could still fall prey. Remember, I've talked about this before, but through my retirement red zone plan, we adjust every single year based upon market conditions, lifestyle changes, tax laws. We adjust those withdrawals every year. In addition to that, our clients have 3 meetings with us per year that helps us create that customized plan that's tweaked. After analyzing over 100 different retirement plans, I've identified these 3 specific withdrawal strategies errors that occur consistently, regardless of the portfolio size or the complexity of your plan. These patterns are so consistent that they've led me to develop what I call the Withdrawal Coordination Principle. This is a framework that can significantly increase retirement income without requiring any additional savings. There is a surprising consistency, regardless of your portfolio size. I see these mistakes in $500,000 accounts all the way up to $5 million accounts. Again, because of generic advice. Optimal withdrawal strategies need to be tweaked and adjusted as tax law change. But the math of the suboptimal strategy, it doesn't lie. So if we're doing the process with you, you can see through our planning process that your outcomes increase with our advice that we implement. Again, these mistakes are so important for you to correct during that retirement red zone, which is 8 years before, 8 years after retirement, because although these mistakes may be little at that time, they can compound over the years and as the years go on. In addition to that, some of the decisions that you make during this time may be irreversible. You must start the planning process early to avoid these problems. Now, if you're worried about your withdrawal strategy for retirement, just click the first link in the description below to fill out a short questionnaire that I made. After you do this, I'll send you a custom video with the perfect withdrawal strategy for your exact situation. Now, I'm going to tell you how these static withdrawal sequences, RMD timing traps, and tax diversification imbalances can significantly reduce your retirement income potential and create an unnecessary tax burden. So let's get into the first problem. This first mistake that I find consistently over and over again in plans is static withdrawal sequencing. This is the practice of following a rigid, predetermined order of withdrawals, regardless of changing markets and tax consequences. So the thought is this: let's take out from pre-tax accounts first, then tax-deferred accounts, and then Roth accounts. That's what I'm talking about right now. Conventional wisdom, it promotes this because it's easy. It's a set it and forget it strategy. Now, while that set it and forget it strategy may have worked for your savings for retirement, it is not going to work for your distributions in retirement. The typical recommendation that I just referenced to you, it takes into account no tax law changes, no market timing changes, and honestly, it's not the best idea for you to be implementing it this way. It also doesn't take into account your needs, your wants, your wishes. In addition to that, what about the tax burden that you're going to take on once RMD starts? Your withdrawal strategies have to be flexible and adaptable based upon market conditions as well. The opportunity cost of ignoring the tax bracket fluctuations that you have could cost you thousands of dollars in retirement. In addition to that, the market volatility, ignoring that, can also cause you sequence of returns risk. So we were always taught to buy low, sell high. But in retirement, if you're always having to sell because you need income regardless of where the market's at, that can be a disaster for your retirement. In our Red Zone retirement planning process, we are huge proponents of having large cash reserves that we would be using right now when the market sells off, say over 10% in a given year, so that you're not selling at a low. While static withdrawal sequencing affects day-to-day retirement decisions, the second mistake creates an even longer-term consequences through what I call the RMD timing trap. This trap occurs when retirees fail to strategically manage their tax-deferred accounts during critical windows in their retirement. Think age 72 plus, when the required minimum distributions have to start. And here's what I'm talking about this right here. A lot of people were taught over the years to save pre-tax, save pre-tax, save pre-tax. Save on taxes today, pay them later. And a lot of clients that we work with today have large accounts in their pre-tax accounts. And what they're thinking is that, hey, I'm going to retire at 60. I'm just going to wait to think about those RMDs when I retire. But through our planning process, what we do is we analyze those future RMD tax rates that they're going to cause versus your current tax rates. And then what we do is we plan to strategically level those out over time, which overall creates a lower tax burden for you over time. We do this through Roth conversions, through distribution planning. And what this helps us do, it helps us keep our clients' taxes to a minimum. Because if you have more income due to RMDs, you're going to pay higher taxes. Again, state, federal, Medicare, Social Security taxes, all those things can go up. Missed opportunities on these Roth conversions in your early retirement years can cause a huge RMD tax bomb that you're going to have to deal with in your later years. The third withdrawal strategy mistake, it compounds the problems that we've just discussed by eliminating the flexibility that you need in retirement to implement optimal withdrawal strategies. Tax diversification imbalance is the overconcentration of retirement assets in a single tax category, typically, like I just said, tax-deferred accounts. Having all of these money in these tax-deferred accounts, it severely limits the withdrawal flexibility and it creates unnecessary tax exposure for you in retirement. Like I just got done saying, look at your statement for an example though. How much money do you have in pre-tax accounts versus Roth accounts inside of your 401k plan? If you're like a lot of the people that we work with, a lot is in pre-tax accounts. And what this does is it creates an unnecessary tax liability for you in retirement. And it does not allow us to be flexible with a strategic withdrawal strategy. You can't be strategic in your withdrawal strategies if everything is pre-tax. Most people understand investment diversification, right? Not putting all of your money inside of one company. But people also need to understand tax diversification, which is not having all of your money in pre-tax accounts. You need to explore Roth accounts, brokerage accounts, maybe a life insurance retirement plan as well. You have to be able to do strategic distributions in order to be optimal with your retirement strategy. So you'd be thinking about Roth contributions in your 401k, maybe Roth conversions in low income tax years. All pre-tax contributions inside of your 401k plan creates a decades-long tax liability, not only for you, but your beneficiaries as well. In the retirement red zone, you need to level out these tax brackets like I talked to you about. You may need again to explore some Roth conversions or distributions to lower that future tax burden. These three withdrawal mistakes, static sequencing, the RMD bomb, and tax diversification imbalance might seem like they're separate problems, but they actually point towards a single unified approach that can transform your retirement withdrawal efficiency. This approach explains why some retirees with modest savings comfortably outlive others with much larger portfolio values. The fundamental principle that separates successful retirement income plans from struggling ones is what I call the Withdrawal Coordination Principle. This principle states that the retirement withdrawals should be dynamically coordinated across accounts and time horizons rather than just following that predetermined sequence. I cover this extensively in my book. Just drop me an email if you'd like a copy. Generic advice doesn't work here. You are unique, your plan has to be as well. And the long-term consequences of following generic advice can possibly leave you broke in retirement. We have to address each of these issues one by one, and everyone's retirement income plan is going to look different. Implementing the withdrawal coordination principle, it doesn't require complex financial engineering. It requires following 3 specific frameworks that systematically address each of the withdrawal mistakes that I've just identified. This framework, working together as an integrated system, it'll help you optimize your retirement for efficiency. Now let me share the specific strategies so that you can apply them to the withdrawal decisions that you're going to face in your retirement. These frameworks are particularly powerful during the 3 critical phases of retirement: the transition years right after you left work, the middle distribution years before the RMDs start, and the later years when your RMDs and your tax efficiency becomes very important. The first solution framework directly addresses the strategic withdrawal sequencing mistake through what I call dynamic withdrawal sequencing, and here's how it works. In our process, it works like this. We do an annual withdrawal review. This is where we replace your fixed withdrawal rules with an annual coordinated withdrawal decisions. So we're not hitting the easy button and doing a set it and forget it. What we do is we assess your tax brackets at the beginning of the year, each year, before we determine where we're going to pull money from. And then what we do, as long as things are allocated properly from pre-tax, taxable, and tax-deferred accounts, we withdraw from multiple account types simultaneously in a tax-optimized strategy. And this adjusts based upon market conditions to avoid selling depreciated assets. And then we also have the tax threshold awareness system that we're using at this time as well. This is where we identify your critical tax threshold each year. Things like your standard deduction, the bracket boundaries that you're going to face, IRMA limits, provisional income for Social Security. We take all things into account when we're looking here. And then what we do is we create a waterfall of income that is optimized around these specific thresholds. So we're using tax-free money to fill up lower brackets before we're accessing tax-deferred accounts. So we don't trigger unnecessary taxes for you while keeping in mind your future RMDs. And then what we do is that we track the distance to the next threshold continually throughout the year. While dynamic withdrawal sequencing addresses day-to-day withdrawal decisions, you also need a strategy specifically designed to manage that RMD timing trap that I've just talked about. Strategic RMD management provides a systematic approach to the pre-RMD window that most retirees completely overlook. So here's the pre-RMD optimization plan. You need to create a year-by-year strategy for the critical period between when you've retired and age 72 to level out those RMDs through Roth conversions and filling up those lower income brackets. You also need to calculate that RMD tipping point. That's at the age when the RMDs will kick you into a higher income tax bracket, which we do not want. You have to have annual targets to lower those future RMDs based upon current tax liability that you're comfortable with. And how do we smooth out those tax brackets? Well, we have a smoothing system that we're using right here. This is where all we're doing is that we're projecting your future tax situation through RMD phases and, of course, market appreciation along the time. And then what we do is we just create that multi-year plan to smooth out that ride across those years so we don't have a big bump in your taxable income in the future. And we also defer discretionary income from the years where you have unusually high income. The third framework, this addresses the tax diversification imbalance by creating an ongoing flexibility throughout your entire retirement plan. The tax bracket management system is a systematic approach to optimizing your withdrawals across different tax categories throughout your retirement. The annual bracket optimization system works like this. We calculate your tax bracket each and every year like I previously stated. And then what we do is we just fill up those brackets deliberately each and every year by just realizing just enough income to reach it, but not to exceed that next bracket. And again, you can't just do this one year and be done your retirement. This has to be done each and every year because your income changes every year, the markets change every year, and of course our tax system changes every year. And through the multiple income source framework that we're using as well, this is where we strategically balance withdrawals from tax deferred, tax-free, and taxable accounts to fill up those tax brackets and create that waterfall of income that I spoke to you about. Through this strategy, we maintain sufficient assets in each category to enable that ongoing optimization over time. In short, you don't want to run out of one of the accounts sooner than another one because that might trigger another tax bomb in the future for you. You have to establish a withdrawal coordination policy that balances current tax efficiency against future withdrawal flexibility. That is very important. We create specific ratios for how much income to derive from each tax category based upon your tax situation in that current year. And so how do we implement these things? Implementing these strategies, is done through a structured annual process. You don't do it all at once. We do it through annual tax projections. This is where we calculate the projected income from all sources for a given year. And then what we do is that we do bracket analysis. This is where we identify the optimal tax bracket for you and the distance that you have until the next threshold hits. Withdrawal coordination is the next thing that we're working on. This is where we determine optimal sources of income and the amounts that you need to pull from each source. Again, tax-free, taxable, and tax-deferred. The next thing that we look at is the RMD impact assessment. This is where we evaluate the effect on future required distributions. Again, leveling out those tax burdens over time while not creating too much strain on your dollar today. And then we have adjustment triggers as the last thing. This is where we have to establish conditions for mid-year strategy changes because you all know life changes during the year. We cannot be strict with these distributions. We have to adapt and change as your life goes on. So here's the checklist for the solution selection process that we're using. We provide specific framework for each retirement withdrawal mistake. We've included practical implementation steps for how you can correct these things. We helped you address how to adapt strategies through different retirement phases. In addition to that, I emphasized to you how you need to coordinate between different retirement accounts. You can't all take from the pre-tax first and just set it and forget it. You cannot do that. And I just walked you through how our systematic process for annual reviews and adjustments worked. Again, our process is called the Red Zone Retirement Income Plan. If you want a copy of my book, I walk you through this in detail. Now that you know the 3 biggest withdrawal strategy mistakes that harm most retirees and ways that you can reconstruct your plan, I need you to understand one more thing here. It's very important that you understand that these improvements don't require earning higher investment returns or saving more during your working years. They simply involve a more strategic management of the assets that you've already accumulated. So if you want to know a more efficient withdrawal strategy for your plan, just click the first link in the description to fill out a questionnaire that I put together. After you do that, I'll send you a video going over a withdrawal strategy and how it fits inside of your plan to maximize your retirement longevity. I'll see you on the next one. This podcast is for educational purposes only and may include references to concepts that have legal and/or tax implications. It's not to be construed as legal or tax advice. Such information or opinions is subject to change without notice and is not intended to use as an offer or solicitation with respect to the purchase or sale of any security, insurance products, or offer of individual investment advice. Any strategies discussed may not be suitable for everyone. Mutual of Omaha Investor Services, Inc. does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your appropriate professional regarding your personal situation prior to making any financial decisions. Securities and advisory services offered through Mutual of Omaha Investor Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Riser Insurance is not affiliated with Mutual of Omaha Investor Services. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Diversification does not guarantee a profit or protection lost against loss in a declining market. Purchase of life insurance is subject to meeting underwriting requirements. There is no guarantee of an individual will be insured. Annuities are long-term investments designed for retirement purposes. Withdrawals of taxable amounts are subject to income tax, and if taken prior to 59.5, a 10% federal penalty tax may apply. Guarantees are backed by the claims paying ability of the issuer and are subject to their terms and conditions.